Kiddushin. We have Gimel Hay. If one betrothed woman and said, "I thought that this is the daughter of a Kohen, and lo, is the daughter of a Levi, or the daughter of a Levi, and lo, she's the daughter of a Kohen," a poor woman, and lo, she is a rich woman, or rich woman, and lo, she is a poor woman, she is betrothed because she did not deceive him. If someone says to a woman, "You are betrothed to me after I will be converted," or "You will be converted, and after I become freed," or "After you become freed, after your husband shall die, as um, or your sister shall die, after your Yavam gives you Chalitza, she is not betrothed." Likewise, if one says to another, "If your wife beats a female, excuse me, if your wife bears a female, she is betrothed to me. She is not betrothed if the I'm sorry, but if your wife bears a female, she is betrothed to me. She is not betrothed if the other's wife was pregnant and her fetus was discernible. The words are effective, and if she bore a female, she is betrothed. If one says to a woman, "You are betrothed to me on a condition that I will speak to you on your behalf to the ruler, or I will work for you like a laborer," but he spoke to her on behalf to the ruler, or he worked for her like a laborer, she is betrothed. If not, she is not betrothed. If he said on condition that father will consent, if the father consented, she is betrothed. If not, she is not betrothed. If the father dies, she is betrothed. If the son dies, they instruct the father to say that he does not consent. If a man said, "I gave my daughter in Kiddushin, but I did not know whom I gave her in Kiddushin," and one came and said, "I betrothed her," he believed. And if this one said, "I betrothed her," and this one said, "I betrothed her," they both give a get, and if they want, one gives a get and one marries. Okay.
Okay. Um, right. So Mishna Ches, we see more about a father's rights to accept Kiddushin on behalf of his minor daughter, where the father comes and says, "Look, Kiddashti es biti, I have accepted Kiddushin on behalf of my daughter. Kiddashtiha v'gerashtiha keshehi katana." Right? But he qualifies it by saying that I did marry her off, but she is but she also I also accepted a divorce on her behalf because the guy changed his mind. So Vaharehi Katana, and she is still a Katana right now while he's saying this. And the court hears this and they say, okay, we accept the father's words because we know that he has jurisdiction over her. And therefore we accept that she is a divorcee and therefore cannot marry a Cohen. But nonetheless, it's also a peshe asar or peshe hitir to say that she is actually a divorcee and not married, and she's allowed to marry somebody other than a Kohen. Okay. Kidashtiha v'gerashtiha kashi katana v'arehi gadola. Now, what happens if he comes and gives this edus? Now she's already 18 and wants to choose her own husband. Um, and he says no, but you can't marry this Kohen because you were married before when I accepted Kiddushin before when you were a kid, but you were divorced then, so you're a divorcee. Eino Ne'eman, we don't believe him anymore because now that he has lost jurisdiction over his daughter, his testimony is just like a single aid who's related, moreover, and we do not believe him. So he cannot constrain his daughter's ability to marry in this respect now. Nishbeis ufedisiha. She was kidnapped and I redeemed her. Again, this also affects her fitness to marry a Kohen. Bain shehi katana, bain shehi gadola, eino ne'eman. In either case, he's not believed because this is not to do with her marriage be'etzem. He has jurisdiction over accepting Kiddushin while she is a child, but not Chazal didn't extend his automatic believability to anything beyond that. So if he comes and says no, she was kidnapped and I redeemed her, that's a single aid who's also related to the person being testified about. Moreover, so we just don't accept his testimony as anything binding. Mishamar b'shas mitaso. The guy says at the time that he's dying, Yeshli banim. Okay, so so all that he's doing over here is when he's dying is he's making sure that his wife is not going to fall for Yibum. Okay, we say this, and this is a man who does not have any brothers anyway. Says the commentary. This is we believe him to say that he has that he has children because he's not affecting his wife's status one way or another. Either way, she's not going to fall for Yibum. If he has no children, if he has no children, um, and he comes and while he's dying, he says, "I have brothers," which we didn't know about before. Eino Ne'eman, we don't accept his testimony on that because now he's going to force his wife to fall for Yibam, which he wasn't going to do until he said this. So again, we do not believe him. Hamikadesh es bitos stam. Um, if he accepts Kiddushin on behalf of his daughters, the without specifying who he's accepting on behalf of, then obviously he's not accepting on behalf of those who are over 12 and a half, the Bogros. Let me just see comment over here. So the Gemara explains that this is coming to exclude even the case of where one of the oldest daughters, one of the older daughters, said to the father, "Listen, you can be my shaliach to accept my kiddushin." Right? He can be a shaliach to accept a kiddushin, but if it wasn't clear who he's accepting the kiddushin for at this point, he could be accepting for his younger daughters or for his older daughter, and we assume that he's accepting on behalf of the younger daughters because it's almost part of his obligation to find a suitable match for his younger daughters, whereas his older daughters, it's up to them. It's not his responsibility. So fortunately, this is not halacha l'maaseh. Mishnah Tes. He's got two wives and two groups of daughters. The first wife has got older daughters, and the second wife has got a younger group. But Amar, Kidashti es biti hagadola. He said, I accepted Kiddushin on behalf of my oldest daughter. But any odeh in gadola sheba gadolos. I can't. I don't know if I accepted on behalf of the older one of the older group or the older one of the younger group. Or Katana Sheba Gedola. So maybe it was even the youngest one of the older group. Shehi Gedola min HaGedola Sheba Katanos, because she is nonetheless older than the oldest daughter of the younger group. Kulan Asuros Chutz min Katana Sheba Katanos Divrei Rabbi Meir. So now Rabbi Meir says, well, we have to be in doubt about all of them except for the very youngest daughter, because anyone who's got a younger sister is considered a gadola legabe that child, and therefore we have to suspect that all of them may be married. Rabbi Yossi Omer Kulan Mutaras Chutz Min HaGadola Shebegadolas. He says it's for sure going to be just the oldest one. Okay. Similarly, if you did it in the reverse direction, Kidashti es biti hakatana ve'eni yodeh im kibal katana shebekatanos or katana shebegadolos. I'm not sure if it was the youngest of the youngest group or youngest of the oldest group, or even the oldest of the younger group who is younger than the youngest of the oldest group. Kulan asuros. They're nonetheless all there. So again, Rabbi Meir falls into pattern and says they're all asur chutz min hagadolos shebegadolos. Only the oldest one is definitely not married. Says Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yossi Omer Kulan mutaras chutz min hakatana shebekatanos. And Rabbi Yossi again follows his pattern and says we assume that he meant the youngest of the youngest group, and everyone else is free to marry anyone else.
Right.
Mishnah Yud. Hmm?
You going on?
Yes, one more. Ha'omer le'isha. He says a guy comes to a woman and says, "Hello, wife, kidashticha. Remember we got married last night. V'hi omeret, who the heck are you? Lo kidashtani. We have no history. I don't know who you are. sort of go away before I call the police. And nobody's saying, but no, 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 I married you. And okay, so now she walks away and says, I don't know who that guy was. And the guy is walking away saying, I don't know what happened. I married her and now she's denying it. Okay, so now each one of them is taken at their word because we don't have any other witnesses. The man who believes that he is married to this woman, who asur bikrovaseha, now he is forbidden to marry any of her relatives, right? Her sister, her mother, her daughter, um, all of those are prohibited to him, or grandmother, granddaughter. He's prohibited to all of them because he has said about himself that he believes that he's married to her. So now that's the other side of what you're saying. He muteris bikrovav. She says, I wouldn't mind marrying your brother though. And he says, but you can't marry my brother. You're married to me. And she says, I have no idea who you are. So and that's it. His protests cannot override her because she doesn't believe that she's married to him. Okay, what happens in the reverse direction? He omers, hey, you married me. Hu omer, lo kidashtich. I have no idea what you're talking about. Hu motar bikrovoseha. So then it's the reverse situation. He's allowed to marry her sister, mother, his daughter. But he asura bikrovav, and she is not allowed to marry any of his relatives because that's once she has said about herself that she's married to him, she must be that brings with it all of the isurim. Okay, so now she says Kiddush Tich. He says Kiddush Tich. He omers Lo Kiddashta Ela Biti. You must have been dreaming because it was my daughter that you did the Kiddushin to, not me. Um, so he who asol bikrovos gadola ugadola muteris bikrovav. So the man is prohibited to marry any other relatives of the mother, including the daughter. By the way, he cannot marry the daughter. The mother says that no, you're married to her, not me, and he says I can't be because I'm married to you. So he cannot marry any of those relatives. Ugadola muteris bikrovav, but the mother can marry any of his relatives. Hu mutar bikrovos katana. However, he can marry relatives of the daughter who are not relatives of the mother. So, for example, so what would be such a situation um, if she has a half sister through her father? Then he would be allowed to marry that half sister through the father because he doesn't believe he was married to the daughter, and that half sister is not related to the woman he thinks he is married to. Okay, he's married to so he can marry the relatives of the daughter, ukatana muteris b'krova, but the daughter who, as far as she's concerned, she was never married to anyone. Nobody ever asked her. She's allowed to marry any of his relatives. Okay, the bottom line of that is that if somebody says that they're believed about themselves for Isur, as soon as he says about himself that he's got that that he's married to this person, he's automatically prohibiting all of the relatives. Okay, back to Aleph Daled.
A large animal is acquired by Masira, and small one is being lifted. These are the words of Rav Meir and Rabbi Eliezer. The sages, however, say a small animal is acquired by Mishkika. Possessions which can have a lien on them are acquired with money with the document of an act of possession, and those which cannot have a lien on them are acquired only with Masika. Possessions which cannot have a lien on them are acquired together with possessions which can have a lien on them with money with the document of an act of possession, and possessions which do not have a lien on them correspond to swear concerning possessions which they have a lien on. Anything which is used as payment for another object, once this one takes possession and one becomes liable for its exchange, how? If one exchange for a cow or a donkey, one for one for an ox, and once this takes possession, that one becomes liable for its exchange. Possession by the temple treasury is with money, and possession by a private person with an act of possession. As oral dedication to the temple is like a delivery to a private person.
Okay. Sota. So we're talking about the Egla Rufa,
Uh, um, Tes Gimel, right?
Test Daled.
Solid. From where would they measure it? Reb Eliezer says from his navel. Reb Akiva says from his nose. Reb Eliezer Yaakov says from the place where he became a corpse, his neck. The elders from Yerushalayim took their leave and went on their way. Then the elders of the city bring a female calf to which has never been worked and which has never drawn with a yoke. A blemish does not disqualify it. They bring it down to an Asian valley, Asian in the literal meaning rock hard, and even how if it is not hard, not rock hard, it is acceptable. Then they decapitate it with a cleaver from behind. It's forbidden. Side is forbidden to be sewn, worked, but it's permitted to clone flax and to chisel stones there. The elders of the city wash their hands with water at the side of the habitation and say, our hands have not spilled this blood, our hands have not seen. Now did it ever enter our minds that the elders of the court are spillers of blood? Rather, their statement means he did not come before us only to send away without food, sent away without food, or do we see him and leave him without escort? Then the Kohanim say, forgive your people Israel when you, Hashem, have delivered and did not place responsibility for spilling innocent blood among the people of Israel. They did not have to say, and the blood shall be returned for them. Rather, it's the divine spirit informing them that whenever they perform this rite, the blood will be returned, atones for them.
Okay.
Okay.
Kasubos, hey, Vav.
If one pronounces a vow on his wife not to have relations, Beit Shammai says 2 weeks. Beit Hillel says 1 week. Students may have the Torah study without permission for 30 days, laborers for 1 week. The conjugal rights stated in the Torah are as follows: men of leisure every day, laborers twice a week, donkey drivers once a week, camel drivers once in 30 days, sailors once in 6 months. These are the words of Rabbi Eliezer. If a woman rebels against her husband, they decrease her consumer by 7 dinners a week. Rabbi Judah says 7 chopeks. Until when does this decrease? Until it decreases a sum corresponding to a ketubah. Rabbi Yossi says he may go on decreasing it continually. Perhaps an inheritance will fall to her from somewhere else, and she will collect it thereof. Likewise, if a woman rebels against his wife, they will increase her ketubah for 3 dinners a week. And Rabbi Yehuda says 3 tropeks. If one supports his wife through a third party, he may not give her less than 2 kavim of wheat or 4 kavim of barley. Said Rabbi Yossi, no one provided her with the barley except Rishus El, who was near Edom. He must give her half a kav of beans, half a log of oil, and a kav of dry figs, or a manna of pressed figs. If he has done, he must provide her in their stead with the produce of another kind. He must give her a bed, a mattress, and a mat. He must give her a veil for her head, a girdle for her loins, shoes from festival to festival, and clothes worth 50 zuz from year to year. So he may not be given new ones in the summer, nor warm ones in the winter. Must be given clothing worth 50 zuz in the winter, and the clothes are clothed with them when they are worn out in the summer, and the worn out clothing is hers. He must give, sorry, he must give her a silver ma for her needs.
That's it. That's it. We're on to next set to Erevin.
Erevin, okay. We may use anything as poles, even a living. Even a living. Even a living being, but Rabbi Yossi forbids this. And it transmits tumor contamination as a tomb cover, but Rabbi Meir considers it contaminated. And we may write bills of divorce on it, but Rabbi Yossi validates. The caravan may keep in a valley and surrounded with mammal trappings. They may carry within it, provided the barricade is 10 feet high and the gaps do not exceed the wall portion. Any gap which is 10 cubits is permitted, for as inches greater than this is prohibited. They may surround the camp with 3 ropes, one above the other, provided they are not be 3.
We've done 3.
We did 3 already?
Yep.
All right.
They were short ones.
Okay. All right. Mikvos. Okay, Yud, Tess. If a mikvah consists of 40 of water and mud, Rabbi Eliezer says one may immerse them in the water, but one may not immerse them in the mud. Rabbi Yeshua says when both the water and the mud. In what mud may they immerse? Is mud over which the water flows. However, if the water was on one side, Yeshua agrees that one may immerse both items of water, but one may not immerse them in the mud. What type of mud were they speaking of? Mud into which a stick sinks on its own accord. So says Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says a place where a measuring stick cannot stand. Abba Eliezer says dola Zola says a place where a plumb bomb sinks. Rabbi Elliot says such and such that falls through the opening of a barrel. Rabbi Shimon says such that enters the tube of a water skin. Rabbi Elliot Zadik says they see such is measured in a log.
Just before you go ahead, we skipped Mishnah Tess.
I,
Let's quickly do that one before we go on to Aleph of the next parak.
I skipped tests. I'm sorry. One arranged jars in a cistern and they filled with water. Although the cistern absorbed all the water, you can break them.
Okay, so now Gimel Aleph.
Okay. Rob Yoshi says there are two mikvos. The other ones contain 40 sar and a log and a half of shuvim. It fell into one and a log and a half of shuvim fell into the other. And then they became mixed. Their waters are still valid because they were never designated as disqualified. But there is a mikvah that does not contain 40 sar, and 3 lugim of shuvim fell into it, and it was then divided into 2. The waters remain disqualified because they have already been designated as disqualified. The Rebbe Yehuda declares invalid for Yeshua used to say any mikvah not containing 4 sar into which 3 lugim of shuvim fell, that even 1 quarter were removed, the waters are valid because it is short of 3 lugim of shuvim. But the comments say it is forever in its qualified state until the full amount of the original core contents flows out, plus a little more.
Okay. Let's see if we can do something.
Cool. Cool. Base. If one slaughters 2 heads at once, the slaughtering is valid. If the 2 hold a knife and slaughter even one, if one is above and one is below, the slaughtering is invalid. I'm sorry, the slaughtering is valid. If he severed the head with 1 stroke, it is invalid. If he was slaughtering and severed the head with 1 stroke, if the knife measures the width of 1 neck, it's valid. If the slaughter and severed 2 heads with 1 stroke, if the knife measured the width of 1 neck, it's valid. When does this apply? Only when he made a forward stroke but not a backward stroke. Or if he made a backward stroke but not a forward stroke. But if he made a forward stroke and a backward stroke, however short it was, even a scalpel, it is valid. A knife fell and slaughtered, even though it's slaughtered in the normal fashion, it's invalid. As it stated, you shall slaughter and you shall eat. When you slaughter, you may eat. The knife fell and he picked it up, or if his clothes fell and he picked them up, where he sharpened the knife and became fatigued, and his companion became slaughtered, and he posed as long as it takes to slaughter. It is invalid. But Shimon says if he pours as long as it takes to examine. If one severed the esophagus and saw the trachea, or he severed the trachea and saw the esophagus, he severed one of them and waited until the animal died, or he thrust the knife under the second organ and cut it. Yeshiva says it is nevertheless, it is the Vela. Akiva says it's Trefa. Yeshiva stated a general rule in the name of Rabbi Shua, whatever became unfit to its slaughtering is Nevela, whatever is slaughtered properly, but something is causing it to become unfit is Trefa. And Rabbi Akiva admitted to him.
Okay, that's it. All right. A guten Chodesh.
Good gosh, you went to the early minutes, hey?
No, I'm going now.
Oh, okay. Oh, we made it. Wow. Okay. All right. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.